Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our second Lunch and Learn. We have three of our amazing women's coaches. They're going to be sharing their experience with you today. So we'll open it up at the end for questions, but we have some questions to run through first. You guys ready? Okay, here we go. So share a little bit about yourselves, your background, where you're from, how you got into coaching, and how you got to K-State.
There we go. Okay, I'll go first. My name is Colleen. I'm the head women's soccer coach here. I am from Southern California originally, so grew up in the LA area. My grandpa coached college basketball forever. So he was at USC before I was born, and so we grew up going to lots of sporting events when I was younger. It was always just a part of my upbringing. And ended up playing collegiate soccer at Oregon State and really wanted to go to USC. They didn't recruit me. It didn't work out, which is fine. Then went to Oregon State and got to beat them, so that was really cool. And I majored in education. I thought I was going to be a teacher, and as I went through my college career, I just couldn't imagine a life away from sports. And I started coaching youth teams when I was still in college and had a blast. And when I went and played pro the couple years after I graduated, when I decided I was done, it just felt like coaching was the next obvious step, and was fortunate enough to get a collegiate assistant job right out of playing and went from there. So we're almost 15 years in the making now, which is crazy, but happy to be here.
All right, hey everybody. First of all, I apologize. My voice is still recovering from this weekend. We had our Big 12 championships this last weekend, so. But yeah, no, I'm Kate Bucknam. I'm our head cross country coach, assistant track coach. I was born and raised in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And my dad, who I'll talk about a lot, he was the head coach at the University of Northern Iowa for, in total, probably like 30 years. And then in 2008, he took the job at the University of Arkansas. So it was my sophomore year of high school, which was not fun to move during that time, but that's what I call home now, is Fayetteville. And then I got into collegiate running. I was very fortunate enough to compete at the University of Minnesota. It was an awesome experience up there. They were kind of known for turning nobodies into something, and so I was not great coming out of college. I was a walk-on all 4 years, but by the time I was a senior, I finally made a conference roster, finally made a regional team, and got to compete at the national championships. So that was a really great experience. I did redshirt my freshman year, so I started grad school and completed my last year of eligibility at Lipscomb University, which I learned really quickly was not the best decision. And the plan was to stay there and be a graduate assistant, but like I said, I knew that's not really who I wanted to work for. So I actually started coaching at Syracuse University. I was there for just a year, really far away from home and really cold. And so I was, again, fortunate enough to go to Belmont and get the job there in 2017, and I was there for the last 7 years. But yeah, my dad was a coach, he still is, and then my mom was also a PE teacher. So if I were at work with my parents, I was either at the track or at a gym. So played a lot of sports growing up, played soccer, basketball, I golfed a little bit, and yeah, obviously ran. But I got here kind of, like I look at the staff and it's crazy, almost all of them, not everybody, is somewhat affiliated with my dad. They've either competed and or coached alongside my dad. And so it's really kind of a full circle moment to be back with these guys who I've watched compete, watched coach, and yeah, just really fortunate to end up here.
Hi. I'm Maria Linares. I'm originally from Venezuela. I grew up in sports, just me, my brother, and that's it. My dad was the only one in my family that did sports. No one else in my family likes doing sports. I don't know why. So I played tennis when I was 6. I did swimming, volleyball, basketball, soccer. So if you guys still recruiting, I might be joining. But apart from that, when I was 11, my tennis coach told me that I should fully commit into tennis. So I listened to him and he got me here. So it was a good choice from him to believe in myself. When I was 17, that's when I was start looking for colleges here in the US, because back home, you either just stick with tennis or any other sport, or you study. You cannot do both at the same time. So having the opportunity to come here to the US and have both was a big opportunity for me and my family. I was talking to the head coach at the time. She provided me good information about Kansas State University. She told me about the culture, the education, and everything that has to be known about the program. So I came here in 2017. I played for K-State for 5 years. I have a COVID year, so that was really nice to have, even though COVID, it wasn't the best. But I took that year and took the best advantage of it. Then graduated in 2022, moved to Tallahassee, Florida. I coached there for 2 years at Florida State University. I also got my master in sports management. And then last year I had the opportunity that my coach, which is now the head coach still here, offered me the opportunity to come back in K-State and be the assistant coach, which is a big opportunity for me. It's kind of like giving back to the place that gave me an opportunity of like a better future for me and my family. So I'm very grateful to be here. Wow, I didn't even turn it on.
No, it was on.
It was on?
The light is on. We're going to skip to number 3 because you all kind of touched on how you wanted to get into coaching and who kind of inspired you to do that. But what is the best advice you've been given, whether that is during your playing days or during your coaching days?
The best advice I think I've gotten obviously a lot of advice over the years, but one thing that stuck out to me was actually from our head coach, Travis Geffert, and I can't remember when I really caught wind of it. I think it was early on in my coaching career. I remember him saying, Kate, be great where you are, win where you're at. And, being at a big school like Minnesota, kind of being around the Arkansas team growing up, they were big time programs, and I was coaching kind of at this smaller school, and I'm saying, man, how do we kind of level up with these guys and compete against some of these bigger programs? And it all started just trying to win these really small battles to begin with. In Nashville, there was Vanderbilt down the road, there was Lipscomb down the road, and it's okay, first let's just try to be the best team in Nashville. And then we kind of branched out, and for us, the conference at the time was the OVC, and we got really close to beating Eastern Kentucky year after year. We ended up winning a conference title, but Eastern Kentucky left, but we got really close before they left. And then we moved to the Missouri Valley, and it took us 2 years to do that. But I think for me, that just really resonated as a young coach at a smaller program, trying to, again, compete with these bigger schools, is just win those small battles, win where you're at, and the good things will come from that. They'll start to experience success, and want more and more of it, and that ultimately made us better. We had some national qualifiers. We had a lot more athletes go into the first rounds of the NCAA championships, kind of with that mindset and with that advice.
Great, I'll go. I have a couple of things, and when I got these questions and I was thinking about it, like I said, there's obviously a lot to choose from, and every experience you have and all the people you work with impact you differently in different ways. I think a couple things. One just relates more back to just my values as a coach and as a human, but this industry is so special because there's so many different people that come from so many different backgrounds, and it's such a huge melting pot. And I don't think that people always recognize how much each individual has to offer and how their experience can influence your experience. And I think, I've been a part of institutions where people within a department are treated like pawns, or they're treated like they're just a peg in a wheel that's moving, and everyone has a role and a job, and that's it. Where for me, in my experience, where I've had the most positive takeaways have been when I have felt like people have seen me as a person, and people have seen me as a human, and then in turn, I do a better job because I respect and appreciate the people that I'm working with, because again, I feel like they see me as a person. And so I try to be really intentional about that, whether it's, support staff or players or staff, or even when we're out recruiting and, we meet other people to try to put the career piece on the back burner and really get to know them as a person first. And that's allowed my experience to be more positive, and hopefully it's allowed other people's experience to be positive as well. And I just, again, in this industry that is constantly changing and we're in a pressure cooker to perform and be successful, it's just not about that all the time. So that's my biggest takeaway. And then I think my other piece is more from a head coaching perspective, but I was talking to my friend who's staying at my house right now, since my husband's in the wilderness. And her and I were talking this morning about conflict and like having hard conversations and how challenging that can be in a leadership role, especially if it's, the hard conversations you're having are with people that you do care about, and it's not, just black and white. And one of the things that I feel like I've learned is that as a leader, you're responsible for being honest and transparent and giving feedback, and you're not necessarily responsible for the reaction that takes place. And that can be a really interesting bridge to cross when you realize, again, it's just your job to give the information, and it can be really challenging when you know that the response is not going to be a positive one, but that it's in the best interest of yourself, that person, and the program, the institution, to do the best job you can do at relaying the information honestly and transparently, and that usually in turn ends up leading to more positive relationships in the long run, as opposed to withholding information or maybe not being as transparent. So that's definitely been a learning curve for me.
When I think about it, my mom doesn't know, but I look up to her a lot. So if she's watching this at some point, she might be happy. But I will have to translate it to Spanish. So she gave my brother and I like a good advice that until this day I still follow it. It's just like, when I translate it, it goes to like, don't let for tomorrow what you can do today. Just like not having any regrets, and I apply that in a daily basis. Like even when I was competing, I was giving 100% of myself playing. Even though I was injured, I was cramping, I will compete 100% and get out of court and be happy with like how I competed at the end of the day. When it comes to coaching, even if I'm having a bad day, I'm gonna give 100% of myself, because these girls are here to get everything that they can for each one of us. So it's just like just giving them back. Like it's like reciprocate. They give me, I give them. So it's just like back and forth. And it's something like I don't want to live with, as I mentioned a lot, no regrets. I don't want to have any delays in my life. If I want to go for something, I got to work hard that day, because we don't know what life is going to give us at the end of the day. We don't know what's going to happen in an hour or two or the next day. So I take advantage of like what I have and just use it as much as I can every day.
Thank you all for sharing that advice. I think important for all of us to kind of learn from each other, learn from experiences. But moving on, sports overall, as we all know, is a very male-dominated industry. How do you navigate this? How do you navigate through tough times? How do you inspire your student athletes to navigate this as well?
I mean, it's undeniable, obviously. And I think there's obviously a fine line, I think in my opinion, there's a fine line between talking about it constantly and trying to do something about it. Yes, it's important to talk about it. Yes, it's important to acknowledge that it's real. But if you're not actively trying to change the situation, then it doesn't do a whole lot to bitch about the current situation. So I had an interesting conversation with a male colleague, actually, who approached me very genuinely and was like, how can I help? Like, how can I help change the narrative or change the situation? And I tried to ask what he was actively doing right now. And he said, not a lot. And that's why I'm having this conversation, because I believe in women coaching women, and I want to try to be an advocate. And I said, okay, well, when your female counterparts get jobs, do you post it? Do you talk about it? Do you support them like publicly, so that all your other male dude friends are like, oh, that's cool? And he was like, no. I was like, do you do it for your dude friends? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, right, which again, it's probably not because you hate women and think that this is silly. It's just because you're not necessarily comfortable with the idea of sharing a woman's success in the same way that maybe you are a man. And it was really interesting because he really was thoughtful and appreciative and grateful, and he started posting stuff on Twitter, and now every time he posts something on Twitter, I screenshot it and send it to him. I'm like, I see you, bro. And it's not even always people that he knows, right? Like, he just, when it's women, again, making moves and being intentional and just sharing the conversation in the same way that they would for their male friends, I think it's not all going to change at one time, I guess is my point. Like, it's not just we're not magically just going to shift the needle and all of a sudden more women are going to be in positions of leadership. But I think the more that humans in general in our industry can share the information and talk about it and promote it, I think is important, because at the end of the day, I just don't think that there's as much conversation around women receiving opportunities as there is men. And one example I was just sharing with my table is that I have a friend who works in the NWSL, which is the women's professional soccer league. And, you know, it started when I finished playing, so over a decade ago, but it's still very young in terms of pro sports in general. And he called me yesterday because he has a position open right now. He works for a team in Houston. He has a position open right now. It's a talent scout, which would be a really cool job. You get to travel and go watch a bunch of soccer and get paid to do it. It's pretty neat. 91% of his applicants are men, which is really interesting because it's a women's professional sports league. So you would think a lot of women would want to apply for that type of job, and they just don't. And I think part of it is that they're not confident that they would be able to do a great job at it, which I think holds a lot of women back. But he called me to try to see if I knew people that I could put in his ear. But he was shocked. He was genuinely shocked. And I think, again, there's just this lack of understanding or awareness about women not necessarily receiving the same opportunities, but that, A, we don't trust ourselves the way men do. We just don't. People have told us our whole lives that we're not strong enough or we're too emotional or whatever, and so we second guess things in ways that we shouldn't. And so, again, I believe it's on other people right now in this day and age to continue to promote those things and encourage confidence and just continue to navigate those conversations in a way that promotes women feeling more confident putting themselves in uncomfortable spaces, which that's half the battle too, is being confident using your voice in spaces where maybe women don't have one. My staff knows I got no problem doing that, but it takes time. Like, you have to continue repeated that behavior to get to a place where you feel okay doing those things. And again, that usually takes someone else helping you out and putting you in a situation to have that power. So.
I probably am gonna ruffle some feathers, but I love it. I guess I'm just so used to working with men. I think the biggest challenge that I have had personally isn't necessarily that I'm a female, it's my youth. I feel like I look younger than I am, and, you know, I've had to kind of assert my dominance really early on so people understand that, like, hey, I mean business. But I also think it's really good, just kind of like what you were saying, I think it's good to have contrast on a staff. I think there are certain qualities that only women have that we can bring to the table, and vice versa for men. And you know, we have to own that. You know, we have to own the fact that, yeah, we are more emotional, we are more nurturing, but that's a good thing. You know, it doesn't always have to be seen as a weakness. It's a true strength. And I think the last couple years that I've been in this, I've really tried to own that. And I've been very, very fortunate to the last two programs that I've been on. I've been on all male staffs, and luckily we share the same vision, we share the same values, and that helps, you know, because we're just showing up and working hard, and I really don't have to think twice about that. But I do know that, you know, there needs to be more women in this, and I think it's scary. I don't know if it's because women are just smarter not to get into this job. Sometimes I look around and I'm like, where's everybody? Like, what do you know that I don't? Yeah. And you know, but it is a really unique role, and it takes a special skill set to do it, and it's not for everybody. And I think, you know, people do shy away from it because of all the demands of it, but it's doable. And I've just been really lucky to work with awesome guys, and it's not like that. I've been on some staffs that have been really tough and learned and quickly got out of there, and it's taught me a lot. So, yeah.
When I think about it, like, I mean, I haven't had as much experience as you two, but even when I was traveling as a kid for tournaments, the main common denominator was men coaches, trainers, event managers, like anything, was only men in other countries. The main thing at home is just like, as a Latino person, men are supposed to be doing everything. Women are not supposed to do much. I didn't give three, to don't put it out there. I cannot curse. But I saw how my mom, until this day, works really hard. She just tried to prove society wrong of like what she can, what she cannot do. And that's one of the things I have sometimes conversation with former players or just even friends, because they struggle of like getting inside any type of industry because, men dominate much industry. It's just the main thing is just like women has always been there. It's just like we just didn't get as much opportunities as we would like to, and that kind of like sucks at the same time, because we're smart, we work hard, or even harder sometimes than some people, to don't put it out there, but we do. And we deserve to be where we are right now, because we don't just get it just because. We work really hard every day to accomplish things, goals, or like personal like goals that they might have. And it's just like having this conversation about like just supporting women with women, like they belong where they are, like they work hard every day, they have the experience, they have the knowledge. At the end of the day, it's just like my parents would say, if you want to prove society wrong, you gotta do it through actions and not words. So that's one of the main things I try to do, and I tell some of my players or former players and like even friends. So that's one of the main things for me. I just like also want to open doors for the new generation, because I wouldn't be here for past generations. So I want to keep doing the same thing that they did for me. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which role each woman has in the industry. We kind of become like a role model for someone at the end of the day. And it's just like looking at the positive side of like keep supporting each other to like keep helping the industry grow and succeed at the end of the day.
Colleen, I know you touched on this about kind of women holding back and lacking confidence at times. What's some advice or conversations that you all have with your student athletes, especially your women's student athletes, about getting into male-dominated professions, whether that is the sports world or just any professional setting?
I talk about this with my colleagues a lot, but I don't envy kids growing up in this era. Like, I just don't. They're constantly comparing themselves to other people. They're constantly trying to decide if they're good enough, if they're pretty enough, if they're fit enough, if they're tall enough, if they're whatever. And that's guys too, like not just women. And like the age-old saying of like comparison is the thief of joy. Like these kids are, they're tired, they're sad, they're what they would say anxious, they're constantly inundated with information about who they're supposed to be. And it sucks. And so I think one of our jobs in our environment is to try to create a space where they don't have to be any type of way. They should be allowed to be exactly who they are. And most of the time, they don't know what that is. They have no idea because they're still trying to fit in some box that somebody else created for them. And so whether we're talking about a male-dominated industry or not, I'm just talking about the world. I'm talking about life. Like, our job is to hopefully get them to a place where when they leave us, they know exactly who they are, they know exactly what they want, and they're not afraid to shout it from the rooftops. Women-dominated, male-dominated, or not. And that's hard. It's really hard. It's hard for me right now, and I'm a grown-ass woman that didn't have social media when I was a kid, so I don't envy them. And Julie knows because she's worked with me for 5 years, but like, I'll stop kids right where they are if I hear some nonsense about nonsense and just get on my soapbox and preach about whatever it is. Some girl's like, I can't eat another cookie because what's my friend gonna think of me? Eat the damn cookie. Like, you run 100 miles a week. Like, are you, right, literally, here's one for me, one for you. It's a cookie. Like, I just, and It's so sad. Like, it really bums me out. And so then if that's what we're talking about, like, God forbid, real things like confidence, you know, or public speaking, you know, getting up in front of humans and having to share your actual thoughts, that's terrifying. You know, so like, again, I don't envy them, and I have compassion for them. I understand the situation they're in, but like, our standards in our environment aren't gonna change. And so our expectation is that you're gonna be the most authentic version of yourself, and I'm not gonna hear you say anything about anybody else. It's just not important, unless it's telling them they're the biggest badass on the planet Earth, right? So like, again, male dominated or not, I think our biggest challenge, our biggest job right now as coaches is to create an environment where they're authentic and that they walk away feeling confident in who they are and what they want.
Yeah, I can kind of piggyback off that a little bit. I think it's really, like you said, it's important to know yourself. It's important to keep learning about yourself and understand your values, what makes you tick, what makes you angry. That's really gonna help you make a lot of decisions, confident ones. But yeah, I mean, like, the age group that we're dealing with right now, you know, they're coming into a place, they're detaching from their parents, they're learning to think for themselves, and it turns up a lot. And that's a good thing. But it's also really hard in our positions to manhandle the fact that they're struggling through this and they have a huge academic workload and they're trying to be the best athlete that they can be. But it's also really, really rewarding to walk alongside them and guide them in that. But they have to do the work and figure themselves out and learn and not be afraid to do that. And then I think moving forward, you know, they're gonna be a lot more confident in who they are and confident to make good decisions. And hopefully, you know, you can end up working for somebody that you know, that somebody that does share your own values. But that's not always the case. You don't always get that option. So know yourself, own yourself, and freaking just be yourself, and don't be afraid to take up space.
I kind of talked about it before, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, I don't like social media. I mean, I'm young and stuff, but I just don't like it. I don't use it. If I use it, just to talk to my friends or like family, or just to send memes, because memes are funny. But apart from that, I really don't like social media, specifically like, I think this new generation really like use social media for everything, which is okay, that's fine. But sometimes it can create some like issues, you know, that can affect like the way of thinking of like what other people might think about how I look, how I think. So at the end of the day, like, I think you guys did an excellent job explaining, like, you just gotta be true to yourself, because at the end of the day, you're gonna choose what you wanna do for yourself. Like, no one's gonna tell you what you cannot do or do not do. So like, if someone tells you that, which I tell them, to not tell me what I cannot do, because I'm a grown person, I can choose what I can do for myself. I will probably just listen to my parents sometimes. Until this day, I don't, but I try to listen as much as I can. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. If you wanna work, it doesn't matter where you wanna work, just go for it. Trust yourself at the end of the day, because you are literally working so hard to go somewhere in any type of industry that you wanna work on. Just supporting each other is the most important thing when you are seeing like someone that is like kind of like self-sabotaging. Like, sometimes I think our mind can play some games about like how we treat ourselves, and I think it's really important to give back to like, hey, it's okay, like, yes, I'm thinking that, but at the same time, don't let it affect you at the end of the day with what you want to work on. But yeah.
The Big 12's theme for celebrating both Black History Month and Women's History Month is centered on the Maya Angelou estate and her quote, "If you are going to live, leave a legacy, make a mark on the world that can't be erased." Can you guys kind of explain what this quote means to you? Explain how you try to live out this quote?
It's a lot of pressure. Man, I think it's all about how people remember you, right? Like, they remember how you made them feel, not all the things that you did. I want my athletes to be free to fail. That's what I want them to remember. With their experience here, you know, free to fail, free to take risks, know that they're gonna be pushed. They were pushed by me really hard, but at the end of the battle, at the end of the race, I'm gonna put my arm around them. And I think when you have that environment, you create that environment in such a high pressure sport, especially ours. It's very, very vulnerable to get out there and compete, you know, individually and not have, you know, you have your team around you, but it's very individualized. And I want to create a space that allows them to be free in that sense and understand, like, hey, like, this isn't going to be the end of the world. You know, I don't know, just free. I want freeness. I want them to experience that. And I don't know, if I can impact one person, then I think you're leaving a legacy. You know, I don't think it has to be this huge thing, but it's just those little moments where they know they can experience that, and they have understanding from somebody as important as us in this unique role of being their coach.
I was going to say the exact same thing about people remember how you made them feel and not what you did. So, you know, I think whenever you go and you listen to student athletes talk about coaches that have impacted their lives, it's never about, man, that one offensive drill we did was so sick. Like, that changed my life. Like, I'm so glad we did that drill. Like, it's not about that. Like, it's never about the pressing or the defense it's not about that. It's about relationships, and it's about how you engage with people and how you make them feel while they're growing, while they're failing, while they're succeeding. How do you show up for them? And we all have ideas about how our sport should be played or how we should train or, you know, periodization and all these different things that go into coaching. But ultimately for me, it's about relationships, and you're not going to make everybody happy. There aren't going, you know, not every single student athlete that you impact is going to walk away feeling like that was the most positive experience they've ever had. But you hope that they at least have a lesson, some golden nugget that they will look back on 10, 20, 30 years from now and be like, man, I'm so glad that I learned that, and I'm so glad I experienced those things. But ultimately, like I said, right now, especially, I feel like our job is to create an environment where they feel seen and heard and appreciated and respected and challenged in a way that maybe they won't be in any other part of their life. So I'm really proud of our staff and what we're trying to do. And I know it's one of the reasons I decided to come to K-State. To me, it feels like collectively, culturally, there's a focus on that, and I think that's incredibly important. So, like I said, I'm just happy to be here and excited for the impact that hopefully all of us are going to be able to have on our young women.
So when I think about the legacy that I want to leave, we're not only coaches, we're also humans. So like, if I want people to remember me, it's just like a way for them to like, oh, she was someone who really believed in her values, traditions, and the culture and everything. But especially like as someone that help people and believe in themselves, because sometimes we just doubt sometimes about ourselves. Like, I have doubts every day when I come to work, but I show up and try to do my best. So it's also like I want to be someone that maybe gave opportunity to those that didn't get as much opportunity, that maybe I saw something on someone or the potential, because it doesn't matter who you are. Each person in this world have a little potential to do something and create a big impact on this world. So like, just to be able to like help someone that I work with, or just if I'm gonna meet them for the first time, I'm gonna be someone who is gonna try to help them no matter what. Because one of my issues is I cannot say no to people. So if you anytime in your life you need something, you have a yes from me no matter what. So I'm working on it, because it's important to put some limits on it, because some people can take advantage of it. So I have learned that through some experience, but I think the main thing will be just being there for people no matter what, like the lows and the highs. Is you only show up for the highs, what happened with the lows? You gotta be someone who is gonna be also on your bad days. I'm gonna be the person. I want my players to know that, like just my family, like I will always be there for them no matter what, and I want them to do the same for other people, because at some point in their life they had someone who was there for them. So I want them to know, like, hey, that person was there for me, I should do the same for another person in this world, because at the end of the day, if we don't help each other in this life, who else is going to do it? So just taking advantage of all of that is a big key in this world.
Mic drop. I want to open up the audience. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
You want the microphone? You got. I'll talk loud.
Okay.
Favorite memory in your coaching career so far? Mine was when I was at Wyoming, and we were in contention to win the Mountain West Championship. But we needed, the Mountain West Conference sent out an email with 9 different possibilities for the last game of the weekend. And there were, 5 teams that were still in contention to win based on all the things that happened in the last weekend. So it was crazy. We obviously knew all we could do is win and hope that we put ourselves in the best position possible. And so we went down to Colorado State, who was our crosstown rival at the time. Absolutely spanked them, just shellacked them, 4-0. It was so fun. We had a freaking blast. And knew that at that point the universe was in control and we had done what we had done and we were going to wait and see what happened. So luckily our game was at first in this lineup, so all the games were after ours, and we got in the bus, headed back up to Laramie. It was about an hour drive. Started watching the first game on our phones on the bus. By the time we got to the parking lot, it was halftime. And so I invited the whole team to come to my house and watch the second half on my TV in my living room. I do not have a big house. It was a small living room. Everybody came over to the house. We ordered pizza. We watched the second half. And it was, the odds of what we needed to happening were very low. San Diego State was playing New Mexico. We needed New Mexico to get a tie or a win. And San Diego State was at the top of the table. They were hot. And sure as shit, it's 0-0 all the way down to the line. And all of the girls are on my floor, on my couch. And the ball rolls out of bounds and everybody just starts counting down. 10, 9. All of a sudden the game ends and we realize that we've won the Mountain West Championship, and I have goosebumps. My boss at the time, my sports supervisor, had been parked outside my house with the trophy. And so he walks into my house and the girls are all up and screaming and celebrating. And then he walks in with the trophy and walks it up the stairs. And it's this big dramatic thing that normally happens on a soccer field. But it happened in my living room. And it was hotter than heck in that living room because they turned my living room into a nightclub and turned the lights off, turned the speaker on, had a dance party, broke my Wi-Fi because everyone was uploading videos to wherever. And my passcode to my Wi-Fi to this day is Champs 2022 because that's the night that they broke my Wi-Fi. So if you need to get on my Wi-Fi, that's the code. And it was, we ended up securing the number 1 seed because the game after that, we needed XYZ to happen. And of course, the universe was yeah, well, we're on a roll. We might as well just do all of it. And so what we needed to happen in the second game also happened, and we ended up being the number 1 seed for the tournament the next year. And that had never happened in program history. So it was a really cool night. It was really special. And just, again, be a part of something that had never happened before. And then to do it in a space that felt so intimate just was really unique. It doesn't usually happen. You're usually in front of a bunch of people and their parents are right there and then the cameras are around, and it didn't happen. We just had an old school dance party in my living room. It was awesome.
Obviously, winning is really fun. Winning a couple conference championships, but the first year we joined the Missouri Valleys was 2 or 3 years ago. We came in ranked 4th and ended up getting 2nd, and it honestly felt like we won. Just with our first time being in that conference, kind of turning some heads, that kind of stuff, and just understanding too the progress that it took to get there. And we had a team that we were growing and getting better, and it was amazing to see these women step up and and get the job done after kind of all that they had experienced. But kind of in between that, like there's just been some moments where, you know, that don't involve my top athletes. It was some of my, you know, not very good athletes that just committed, man, and they just they were bought in just as much as anybody else, and their definition of success might have looked a little bit different, but getting to experience and see them do something or set a PR or finally score a point at conference, like I have little, you know, memories of all different, you know, athletes like that stepped up and did something, and I swear, like, it feels like for them and with them, like, it feels like they won, you know, and so I'm thankful to have a lot of those, and yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I think I would say when I was at FSU, we in conference matches we lost against Miami, and that's always a tough one, specifically if you work in the the rivalry is pretty good. So when we go to championship, first round we play against Miami, so the girls were really pumped, to put it like that, about it, because 2 weeks before we lost against them. So most of them were like already like thinking, okay, we might, you know, and then others were like, no, you gotta keep going. Then we play first round 6 p.m. We finished around 10 p.m. That was a really 4 beautiful hours of like being really competitive in there. So I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. The men's tennis team show up randomly and they support the women's, which that's what I love to see. And thanks to that, we won the doubles point. Miami was not expecting to lose the double point against us, so that was key point. They were stressing about the guys being so loud, they couldn't focus about anything else. And the girls were like, keep going, keep going, keep going. So that was like a key for the girls. And then they stayed for a little longer for the singles, and then I was coaching the #1 player, which she lost like 6-0, 6-1 2 weeks before, and she was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I will try to show up that day as much as I can, because the other girl, she won national champions in singles, so she was really good at what she was doing. So I stick there for like 3 hours. We won that match. I don't know how mentally strong she was, but I was just trying to just remind her little things about it, and then I have other 2 players I was helping too. So that was really key, because we won, I think, 4-1 or 4-0, and we lost 2 weeks before, and that was like really key, because in championship, like usually Miami goes farther, or like other teams like UNC and stuff, but like we were able to make it to semifinals in that championship, which makes me really happy to see how, even though they didn't let what happened 2 weeks before dictate what they were gonna do that day, they show up and they were like, hey, you kicked me, I'm gonna kick you today. So I love how they came up with that mentality, how positive they were. I think that was the most positive I ever seen the players at the time, to like fully commit into like playing with zero negativity, because it happens, you know, you play, you are gonna have certain stuff happening up there, but that's what really got me. And then even though we lost the next day, I still feel like they show up no matter what. Like, it didn't, like, yeah, we got the job done the day before, I'm gonna keep doing it the same. So that was like really important for me so far. So I'm hoping to have more memories when it comes.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. And of course, thank you to our amazing panelists. Yes, let's give a round of applause. Amazing. Continue to eat. I know it's out for a little bit longer, so if you're still hungry, please continue. We will have our next Lunch and Learn on April 9th. We will be doing the Green Bandana Project. Annie will be facilitating us in that. Woo, there she is back there. So make sure to RSVP for that, sign up, come out. And as you are exiting, there is a QR code on the screen. We would love your feedback on these Lunch and Learns, topics that you may want to hear in the future, so please scan that QR code. Go
Thanks
Cats,
everyone
thanks
for coming.
guys.